Okay. Gastro Combat Connection viewers, and welcome to the Day Class podcast with Lucario and Masa, and we are on face cam for once. Isn't that weird and wonderful? Probably not. You're probably traumatized, but fuck it. It lets you get a better view into us while we're talking about what we're talking about. And today, with just the two of us, you may have noticed my weird little greeting there, Gastro. We're going to be talking about the arts of Kempo and Kenpo. We have both trained individually different styles of Kempo. As I currently train in the Japanese art of Shorinji Kempo, and Masa has trained in American Shaolin Kempo karate. Yeah, also. So for those of you who don't know, the word Kempo or Kenpo is a Japanese reference to martial arts, specifically of Kwanfa, the Chinese martial arts. So the actual correct spelling of it is Kenpo, but when a P comes after an N in romanizations of Japanese, it makes the M sound like senpai. So it is pronounced Kempo, but spelled Kenpo. We're going to talk about the differences and similarities between these two arts that we have done. I'm currently a yellow belt in Shorinji Kempo. I've been training for 2 years, and Masa?
I got to low brown belt.
Low brown belt. How many belts are in American Shaolin Kempo?
So in mine, there was white, yellow, orange, purple, blue, green with blue stripe, green with brown stripe, low brown, high brown, and then you get into the black belts.
That is outrageously American. I can say that now. Do you want to know what we have in Shorinji Kempo?
What?
White, yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black. And
well, the kids get stripes. They get little stickers, like the little tape, you know, that they put on the belts, and then when you get all three of those, then you're allowed to advance to the next rank.
Is that really just a kid's thing? Because I'm pretty sure in like Taekwondo that's an everyone thing.
I don't know about Taekwondo, but I know for the kids it'll be like, okay, you know your katas. Okay, so you get your little tape thing on the end, and okay, now you know all of these. So, and then once they master those three things that they need to, like, I think it's forms, the combinations, and then probably just like some practicality. You know, like you can do this to a certain quality in general, and then you can test for your next belt. It's basically because, I mean, it's like how the belt systems are in America. It's, okay, we have short attention spans. We have to constantly be given rewards to stay on track. Kids have even shorter attention spans, so they have little tape stripes on the end of their belts in addition to all the belts.
I know that we do have a kids syllabus for Kempo. I'm not sure how widely it's used, so I don't know much about it. But I think one rule that I do know is that I think it's under 16s are not allowed to practice any of our locks.
Joint locks?
Yeah. So they're allowed to practice our goho, our striking, and they're allowed to practice the releases, but they're not allowed to practice locks.
Yeah, I don't know much about the kids or the teen classes. I just know occasionally we have worked with the teens classes, and they are very, very much all over the place, and it can be frustrating working with them. They want to socialize, and it's like, I want to learn the technique, guys.
Yeah.
But
our class doesn't have, like, this is just my dojo. I think this is just the dojo size rather than the actual style of Kempo, but we have just 2 sessions a week, and everyone who does its work at our dojo goes to those sessions.
Well, you guys share a church, right? You rent out a church space?
Yeah, we rent out a church for our dojo.
Yeah, where I went, it was its own place, so they were constantly having classes, kids, adults, teens, and then other sorts of classes like seminars and the weapons class and all of that, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, there's a lot less dojos that have an actual dojo space around here because they have mostly, like, I've seen like 2 BJJ schools and a couple of MMA gyms that have like their own space, and even then, that's like they're charging a lot more than normal, or it's a really small space.
Yeah, martial arts here is not cheap if, your place has its own location.
How much did your classes cost you?
Let's see. I don't remember exactly, but probably about $200 a month.
Whew, how many sessions did you get, though?
Basically unlimited, and I was going basically every day of the week except Sunday because they weren't open on Sunday. And then I was doing the classes, the combat fitness, the weapons class, basically everything I could attend. So I was there for at least 9 hours a week, I think.
That's a benefit of when you have your own spaces, you can and stuff like that. Because we rent out this school, we get two sessions a week. We were during the summer also doing a park session. And for me, it costs, I've just stopped doing it at university rates, which was £30 a month for 2 sessions. I think now it's $50 for 2 sessions.
I don't know anything about the pound to dollar rate.
Add like $5 onto it.
Okay.
Yeah. So 35, 55. Roughly about that, 57 something, I don't know. Yeah, it's not horrible. There is generally cheaper over here. That's why when I hear people saying, like, yeah, no, they're charging me $120 for 2 sessions a week, I'm like, America's fucked, man.
Yeah, I always go for the unlimited classes because I need my martial arts. It's my therapy and my social space, so I wouldn't be able to survive with just 2 classes a week.
Well, even the places over here that have their own gyms don't do unlimited classes from what I've seen. Like, the MMA school that I tried out, which also had a Kung Fu class, you paid $90 a month, which is probably about $100, and you would get to choose 2 classes because they did Muay Thai, they did fitness, they did BJJ, and they did Kung Fu. And you choose 2 of those to go to.
2 classes or 2 styles?
2 classes. Each style got 2 classes a week.
So you could do 2 classes for each style week, or?
No. You chose 2 classes to go to a week because each style had 2 classes, and then they get like half the gym each. So when I was there, the BJJ class and the Kung Fu class were going on at the same time because they have a different instructor for each style. Yeah, and you choose 2 of those to go to.
Yeah, that was common. We had multiple classes going on at the same time, which is sometimes why it's like, okay, we got bigger classes than we were expecting. Teens and adults are going to be jammed together today. It didn't happen often, but occasionally it would just, the space was limited. But it was our space, so it was always set up, which was nice.
All right, so back onto the actual styles rather than dojo comparison. So you mentioned that there are different belts to each one, and you've got probably 3 times as many belts from Shaolin Kenpo. What is the ranking grading like for Kenpo, for your Kenpo?
So I know with white belt, I was able to get my white belt in like a month, and then yellow, it was like another 2 months. But then obviously as you go up ranks, it takes a lot longer time, and it's not just you show up and you automatically go up. You actually have to be able to consistently show that you know the forms, you know the combinations, everything, and that you can do it to a certain quality, which obviously gets more and more stringent as you go higher. And then, of course, the length also increases as you go up, and then what you're expected to do also goes up. So I know once, I think it's either you test for purple belt, or when you're already a purple belt testing for blue belt, all of a sudden sparring now is part of the testing. And it's not like you have to beat people. They just want to make sure that you're not useless.
Smack them up.
Yeah, you have to beat them up. No, it's just like that you understand how sparring works, and that you have some sort of defense, and that you don't run away from your opponent. It's that, they want to know you know the basics. But before that, you're not expected to spar, and you're actually not allowed to spar until yellow belt.
Interesting.
I mean, they want to make sure because white belt, like I said, I was able to get through that in a month. It's just very basic stuff, like just straight punches, basic blocks, super basic kicks. So I don't know if you'd want to go sparring before you even knew that, because if you don't know any punches or strikes or kicks, what are you doing?
Exactly.
And it might be different for kids, but I know that's how it was for adults. And I think for white belt, I think the test was God, it went so fast. I don't even remember. But I think it was like white through purple, I think, would test together. But then the white belts would graduate to yellow, and they would be let out first. And then the people, so basically, like, it was staggered who left. So we'd all start at the same time. But then it's like, okay, the lowest people, they ended their test earliest. And then it's like, okay, now the rest of us are going to do this next step that the original white belts didn't have to do, and so on. And then, you know, before the sparring started, those other people would graduate. And then once the sparring was done, I think that was when purple-blue ended. And then I think after that is when, you know, you start going into these are separate testing in general. Like, you don't test with the white belts anymore. It's more like it's more fast-paced in what you're expected to do. Because, yeah, like an hour, 2-hour test is nothing. And then after that, it can get crazy long. I think one of my tests was like 4 hours long or something. I don't know. You lose track of time because instead of like, we're going to do a light jog and some basic stuff and some basic punches, it's like, okay, you're all going to run up this really steep hill 1,000,000 times and do like kicks all the way down and punches all the way back up, and you know, and it actually became more teamwork oriented, which I thought was really interesting with the later ones.
Teamwork oriented, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you really expect, obviously.
Yeah, because martial arts, especially considering we didn't compete or anything like that, it was pretty individualistic. Like, it was very community. Like, you know, we felt like a family and stuff, but it wasn't really a teamwork kind of, at least not in my mind. Like, it was a community, but not team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I remember one of them, we all had to bring, like, a little step stool with us to the test. And that's the thing. Like, sometimes it'll be like, bring this thing. Also, we're not going to tell you why.
Okay.
And so this was, I think, I was like green with a brown stripe somewhere up there. And we all had to bring like this little step stool. And what it was someone had to do like kicks all the way up like this really long steep hill, but they weren't allowed to stop, but they had to stay on the step stools. But they couldn't move the step stools, so we had to make sure that no one tripped, and we were able to make sure that the guy could continuously go up the hill, and we would have to move the step stools.
That sounds absolutely ridiculous.
It was. But if anyone messed up, we'd have to start all over again.
Well, everyone starts over again.
Yeah, because it was a team thing, so that poor person had to keep doing all the kicks, up all the step stools, up the hill, while we're all like running like maniacs, making sure that, you know, he doesn't stop, because we have to make sure that the step stools are there. It's within his reach.
That sounds dangerous more than anything.
Well, it was on a grassy hill, and like they were step stools. Like they were like, it wasn't like multiple steps up. It was like a tiny little step stool.
You're saying it's like a steep hill, so the stool's gonna be like that, and they're gonna.
It's not.
Like, yeah.
Okay, maybe it felt steep. It probably isn't that steep.
Okay, fair enough.
It feels steep when you're running up it for like 100 times and you're the shortest person there and suck at running. It feels steep.
Yeah. Okay. Our grading, well, I've only been to the one grading, obviously, even though I've been there 2 years, and you're meant to get from white to yellow belt in 20 sessions, 20 classes, and then you're meant to be good enough to grade. I had obviously, COVID being one thing, that's covered it all up until the first time there's even been a seminar or any sort of meeting between dojos was September when I graded, and before that there was one grading which I missed because I twisted my ankle and couldn't move for that weekend.
Ooh, that sucks.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, I'm gonna grade. Fuck! So that was it, and then I got stuck as a white belt for 2 years. Thankfully, like, obviously I'm still there was a lot of time practicing the white belt syllabus and practicing the basics. Sensei was nice and didn't just make me do that. He showed me some other stuff, and we had, when I was training for that MMA fight during the summer, he showed me some higher level stuff with break falling and some more takedowns and stuff, which I was really appreciative of. But as a general rule, you're meant to grade from white to yellow after 20 classes. Most places, I think, do 2 classes a week, so that's 10 weeks, 3 months just over before you can grade. You're meant to be able to get up to black belt in 3 or 4 years, and I know from brown belt to black belt there is a requirement that you wait an entire year as a brown belt before you go into Shodan. And the point of that is, I know everyone's like, but your black belt should take like 5 years and 5, 6, 10 years. You can't be a black. There's so many levels of black belts afterwards that getting to black belt pretty much just means that you have basics down.
Yeah, that's how it is over here, but it does take longer than that to get there. But yeah, that's the idea. Black belt is like
graded.
Starts.
Yeah, no, go.
I was just agreeing with you. Like over here, black belt isn't the end; it's the start. It's like, okay, now you know the basics. Now you start your journey.
Yeah. So on our white belt syllabus, I just graded off of it. We have 4 striking techniques and 4 grappling techniques, 2 break falls, and we need to remember some vocabulary, some Japanese vocabulary, and the first 2 paragraphs of the Dokun, which is our Buddhist scripture that we read off of every class. So it's really not that much, and they're pretty simple ones because they're just introductions to stuff that we take better in higher levels. So our striking syllabus is very simple. There's a side of your head cover and strike when you move, and they explain it sort of like using a Muay Thai guard when you have your hands up here, and then you're just moving over to the side so that your head's covered, and this is just in case it still hits you. The whole point of the moving is that it doesn't hit you, but just in case they redirect your hands here and it brushes past and doesn't hit you. And then we do that, and punch. We have a raised arm high block, kind of, but it's not like the karate high block. It's higher than that, and then again, it's meant to hit here, and then we can cover and pull, like if they have a weapon, it's for like bottles and sticks. That's for when black belt we start doing that, but we start off just blocking and then kicking. Then do the same with the backhand hit, and then do the flip and hit that we've done before. And then you just step to the side, out of the way, and then kick them. And that's our striking. And then our grappling is 2 wrist releases, one where you step off to the side of them, hit them in the side of the neck, punch them, and step away, and one where you whip them in the face with one of our basic whipping strikes, break your hand out, back fist, punch, and step away. And then the break full is a cartwheel and rolling on the floor so you don't get stamped out. And that's pretty simple stuff, like white belt stuff, I think. And we don't do all of that for the grading. The way it works here is we had a seminar in a large gym space which had multiple rooms. We did the morning of the seminar we did with everyone else, apart from, I think the black belts went up to a different room. But the morning of the seminar, we were in the lower gym. We did some drills, some techniques, and then we started training for the grading in our individual belt groups. Then we went up to the room. It was, I think, only white, yellow, and orange were grading that day, and so it was us in the room with 2 instructors. The orange belt sat down. The yellow belt sat down. The white and orange got a different instructor. They graded us. We went through our basic Kihon techniques, which for us is a whip strike, a punch, a stomach punch, and a couple of front kicks and some blocks. Then we did kata, which we have 2 katas for white belt, Tenshi Kendaike and Ryu Kendaike. And then did drills of our 4 techniques in our break through. And then we graded. That's it. Nice and simple, took about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I remember my first one went really fast. It was really basic. I think we have 1 form, Pinyin 1, and then we have white belt Kempo, because we have our combinations, and then we have the Kempo, and they're both just stringing different attacks and defenses together. But for whatever reason, we have the combination separate from the Kempos, and there's 1 Kempo for each belt color, and then a random amount of combinations that you learn on the belt. It is what it is. I've just kind of sat there.
One way we differ from yours, though, is that in white belt for our grading and in class, we did still spar. We still do randori, but it's controlled randori, obviously, so it's singular attacks. I know point scoring, but it's the whole point is to understand that we have the techniques that we're doing down to the point where we can do them not knowing which one we're getting.
Mhm.
or not being told which one to do and at different paces, not just in the itch and do it, left knee and do it. And so we have 2 attacks for our striking. It's either someone's going to come in and punch you in the face, or they're going to come in with a bottle or a stick and smash you over the head. And then all 4 of those, you can do which one you want off of those, basically. And then we also have grappling sparring. But.
Yeah, that was one thing I wish we did more of. I forget how it broke down, but there really wasn't a lot of sparring in my last gym, which is not ideal for me. It was a lot of theory. It was more theory, I would say, just because we didn't spar often. I think they started to up how much they sparred towards the end of before I moved, but again, I'm not there, so I don't know, especially with COVID and all of that. Who knows what happened. But so there wasn't a lot of time to spar. And then as far as like the sticks and stuff, that defense, I don't think we really started doing that until maybe orange belt. White belt is super simple. Like I said, got it done in a month. Just straight kicks, straight punches, just like a really basic blocks. Nothing that interesting, honestly.
Yeah. That is really interesting. So you were talking about, like, sorry, I had a transition here, and I can't remember it entirely. You were talking about, like, all, like, the, how they started to implement, like, maybe they changed it as going on and stuff. Your art has, in fact, changed a lot, obviously. Do you want to talk about a little bit about how, like, American shell and Kempo karate came to be, to your understanding? What it
Sure. Of? My understanding is that the dojo I went to was originally part of USSD, which is the United Studios of Self-Defense. So this was before I got there. And then USSD, for anyone who knows anything about that, knows there was like a bunch of just drama that happened, and then USSD became one thing, and part of it split out and became the Ultimate Z. And while all this drama was happening...
All of these are violently American.
I know, right? The name Ultimate Z. It's like, oh my gosh.
The USSD and Ultimate Z. Massive defense.
Yeah. So while all that drama was happening, the master of the dojo was like, I'm here for the martial art. I'm not here for this drama. And he separated himself from USSD and obviously Ultimate Z because he didn't want any part of that. And so he still needed to learn because he's a martial artist.
At a certain level, and you.
Yeah, he was a certain. I mean, he was in black belt, but I don't remember exactly what rank. But the point is, like, you always, there's always a master, you know, and the master's master, and the master's master's master. So he went out looking for a grandmaster, and he found Grandmaster Broussard, who is out of Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And I don't exactly know how the relationship formed, but they talked, and Master Randolph liked Grandmaster Broussard's way of teaching, and so the Shaolin Kempo that was part of USSD, that was part of the dojo originally, kind of became married with this more American Kempo, which is what Grandmaster Broussard grew up with and trained in. So there was a merging, and there's still some things that they didn't necessarily take from Grandmaster Broussard. Grandmaster Broussard is very into more of the martial part of martial arts, but Master Randolph really liked the meditation and the art aspect.
And
okay, but he's still really strong. He can do clapping pull-ups, which is insane.
Lovely.
Yeah, it was weird seeing it. It's like, people can do that, okay? But so Grandmaster kind of likes to peel away some of the art aspect of it, but we kept that within the dojo because that's important to us. But as a result, it's kind of this hybrid between Shaolin Kempo and American Kempo, and just kind of like what stayed and what left, and things just kind of, it's an amalgamation of a bunch of stuff.
So does it all come from different American Kempos? Is it like part Parker and part Villari and part so on and so forth? Or is there like some actual like older Japanese, Chinese ones coming in from somewhere?
So I would say it's probably a blend of Park and Valari Kempos.
Okay.
But at the same time, because we're no longer under an organization and Grandmaster Bazaar doesn't exactly rule with an iron fist, we have a lot of leeway in what we bring into the dojo. I've heard of stories of people like, oh no, only look at our art and that kind of thing, and that's not at all the attitude of the master of the dojo or the other senseis. In fact, a lot of senseis would be like, hey, I saw this cool thing from Muay Thai, you know, or I saw this really cool thing in Wing Chun, and they would actually be like, so today let's see how we can merge these ideas with what we're taught, or let's, you know, practice this other thing from this other art. It was, so again, it's like, what is it at the end of the day? It's probably a combination of a lot of things, because there's all the stuff the senseis bring in from all sorts of arts, because they'll go, that looks cool.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously stuff from Grandmaster Broussard, Master Randolph, and so at the end of the day,
usually the point of Kempo as a whole, really, when like, because obviously like when Ed Parker started doing Kempo, he was like, yeah, you know, there's this and this and this, and then it will start coming off, and he's like, and the whole point of Kempo in Japan is it is Chinese martial arts reinterpreted through Japan, so it's all about taking stuff and making stuff.
Yeah, and that was, funny enough, I remember we were trying to practice the Muay Thai kicks in Kempo, oddly enough, and I remember I could not do it for the life of me. They're like, no, you're not using your hip enough, you don't need to chamber like that, and I'm just like, I can't get it. And now here I am, years later, doing Muay Thai.
And you still can't get it?
No, I figured out how to get it, but it was still a struggle, because I remember I was just like, I couldn't get it during the Kempo class, and it took me forever to figure out an actual Muay Thai. But like we would just practice things from other arts, because it was like, well, at the end of the day, you know, it's all martial arts.
It's all martial arts. I'd say Shorinji Kempo is a little more set in its way now about what they are doing, because it is an organizational martial art rather than a singular dojo, and we do have a grandmaster specifically that we look towards, because we have so Shorinji Kempo was made in the 50s by Sodo Shin, or Golden Kaiso founder. He was a part of the Japanese military during the Second World War, and he was part of the occupying force in China, where he, according to the legend, and there's a lot of debate about the history, and actually the Shaolin Temple tried to sue the Shorinji Kempo organization once, because Shorinji Kempo means Shaolin Fifth Way. It means Shaolin Kung Fu, Shaolin martial arts. To my understanding, the way the actual history backs up is it was a southern Shaolin temple where Soda Shin met some of the instructors from there and learned some martial arts that are unspecified. Some people say it was a White Lotus Kung Fu style, which I don't actually know anything about the style itself beyond it being part of Shorinji Kempo. He was already he already had experience in Jiu-jitsu. His grandfather and one of his grandfather's friends were experienced Jiu-jitsuka, and when he returned to Japan, he trained with his grandfather's friend after his grandfather was dead in Jiu-jitsu again, as well as Chin-Na from these Shaolin masters. So there's a lot of grappling, light wrist locks and standing arm bars and all that type of thing going on. And one of our techniques, I actually did find some Shaolin monks practicing it. Apparently, Sodoshin was invited over in the 70s to bring the Chin-Na Jiu-Jitsu back into the Shaolin Temple and give classes, and the organization that I'm part of, I think it might have been that one, or it might have been the other. There's organizations. Some people from here have gone over to the Shaolin Temple and found a monument to Sodoshin in the temple from when he was training them, even though they tried to sue him. So that's quite funny. Apart from these Shaolin styles that he learned and the jiu-jitsu from his grandfather and his grandfather's friend, there was boxing, which he learned whilst in the military, I'm guessing from whatever other forces soldiers were around, just straight European boxing, and karate and Hakuryu jiu-jitsu. I think it's Shorinji karate is what the current grandmaster over here, Sensei Mizuno, said to us on a seminar pool once, because I did ask him, and he said Shorinji, because the Wikipedia says Oichiryu, which I don't see any elements of, because Oichiryu is a very close quarters, aggressive, it uses like tiger claws and stuff like that, and I was like, so Sensei, is this true? He's like, no Oichiryu, Shorinji-ryu. So I looked that up, and it makes a lot more sense. Shorinji-ryu has a lot of like Chinese elements, got the very low stances and stuff like that. So I think that is pretty cool, and that's where we are today: boxing, karate, jiu-jitsu, Shaolin Kung Fu.
So I know with my art, the one my dojo, my unhinged dojo, bringing all the random stuff in. The karate was sort of, that rigidness was sort of how we learned at the beginning. And then once you get to a certain point, that's when more of the kung fu sort of showed its head. Like, yeah. I wasn't sure if that's kind of how your curriculum, from what you're seeing, is happening. Like, you basically like have karate as the base, and then as you get better, have more kung fu influence, or is that kung fu influence there from the very basic beginners?
I'd say the kung fu influence is there from the beginning, because as much as many of our techniques are the same as karate in many ways, you know, we got the high blocks and the mid blocks, and they're all more influenced by the softer side as well, because we have a rule within Shorinji Kenpo about combining Go and Ju, hard and soft, because they're meant to be one, and that's the only way the art's going to work. So I'm not saying all karate is like hard and but
that's like, generally what people think of.
As a general rule, especially with Japanese karate, that's the general type of typical idea, and we have a lot more influence where everything turns into grapples, because they're all softer. They're deflections that we can then hook and pull into more strikes or throws. And that sort of intralinked detail, I'd say, is where the Kung Fu elements come from. When I was talking to a sensei, Mizuno, I asked him, is there any direct technique from Kung Fu? He's like, it's not the direct techniques, but it's the influence of the Chinese philosophy with their arts. That's why how these things came to be that Sodoshin took to create techniques. That and the fact that we literally read Zen Buddhist scripture, which comes from China.
So you would say that even as a white belt, you were learning some more of the softer side?
I would say so, yeah. The whole point is that, like, you know, like, so let's say karate, they block on the bone, yeah? Here. We block here because it leaves less of an impact, and it's not blocking, it's like sliding off. We're not trying to condition ourselves, we're trying to hit with the softer part so that it doesn't, like, mess us up. And I'd say it's more obvious looking at it that we do karate, if nothing else, by the fact that we wear gi. But, like, it's obviously not the same when you train, especially our strikes, our punches are not very dissimilar to karate. Some of them are. Our back fist, when we do it, is similar to how Lo has showed us the Shorin-ryu, I can't remember which Shorin-ryu subset he does, but where it's a straight punch and then a flip back rather than a whole turn and back. We do that. That's more karate. And I would say our palm strikes, because we hit with the palm heel, is karate. But our actual striking, like, we do like this instead of like this. Or we go low down and hit with the bottom three knuckles, like I did in Wing Chun, you know, the bottom three alignment straight. This is when we're hitting to the solar plexus. So I'd say there was always a little bit of an influence of outside stuff that makes it distinctive from karate. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that we were definitely more karate influenced, again, at the beginning. But, like, we would hit here, but, like, for the blocks, but we'd have it at an angle because we do want it to slide off. But,
yeah,
you know, we did some conditioning, not, like, you had to be an adult to do any of the conditioning, just because the idea is, like, you don't want parents coming in and seeing senseis hitting your children with wooden sticks, that they probably wouldn't come back.
Well, I think that would be the best type of class. I don't know how, like, you would have, like, your parents would have felt about that if they saw you getting hit with a wooden stick.
Oh my gosh.
Whenever I go to a martial arts class, because obviously my mom's done a lot of martial arts, and that's how I got into it. She was taking me to the classes she was going to. She always told me whenever I try new classes, if you're not bruised afterwards, then it wasn't a good class.
Nice. Yeah, ours was just if you weren't sore the next day, but
yeah, same shit, really.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we definitely are more karate influenced, but then once you get, maybe blue, green belt, somewhere around there, is really when you start going into more of the lower stances and more of the softer kind of parry, hook sort of things. Yeah. We learned basic joint locks before then, but I mean, as far as the blocks, the punches, like the first blocking system, you know, it's very much that sort of like rigidity. And then eventually we learned the 10-point blocking system, which has like all of these soft sort of movements in it, and I can't remember it exactly, and my camera isn't showing all of that anyway. So I'm sure if I tried it, my senseis, if they saw this, would be embarrassed and be like, nope, I don't know her. Nope.
I'm having that same thing, especially because I am, again, only a yellow belt. So it's like, am I really talking about the truth here? Or like, I need to be careful with saying, specifically, this is my experience. You know,
yeah, exactly. It's our experience and it's our interpretation. It's not necessarily exactly what they were going for or what other people may have experienced or know. You know, definitely not how it is right now because I haven't been there since before COVID.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since you've been there because you did a couple of online classes during COVID, but even before COVID, you were telling us that you were in a different place still.
Yeah, because I moved states, so I couldn't really go back.
And you tried like a different Kempo, and you tried Kung Fu, and then now you're doing Muay Thai.
Yes, I actually tried a USSD gym that was in the area.
Yeah, so you decided to get straight in on the political shit.
I didn't want to actually, but Master Randolph was like, you know, don't judge the entire organization by just some drama, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll be open-minded because you're telling me to be open-minded, so.
I feel that's somewhat very different to ours.
Yeah.
You've heard the stories about the two organizations with everyone.
Sorry,
you've heard like the stories about like the big split between the Shinji Kempo organizations and how like I'm part of the newer organization.
Oh, yep, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, it's it's very, very political. The good news is they're not that related. Like I don't even think there's many dojos of that organization over here, bar the one that's like right next to us. So we don't deal with a lot of it, but we still hear about it, and it's I don't know. This is just my opinion. I don't think since they'll be happy for people jumping between organizations.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the thing with the dojo, you know, I went to. They weren't like, oh, we're the only right way. Like I said, they were pulling stuff that they saw from, you know, they saw something cool in Muay Thai. They saw something cool in boxing. Actually, one of our students, one of my classmates, also did boxing, and so they would be like, hey, would you be interested in, you know, showing us some of the stuff that you learn at boxing, you know, and we could try some of that in the Kenpo class. So, I mean, boxing, Muay Thai, just Eskrima stuff, and that's actually, I think, why the weapons class actually became a thing, because weapons aren't part of the curriculum. Yes, we have, like, defenses against, like, the stick, the knife, the gun, and then they're always like, don't actually do this because don't be stupid. But I think the weapons class was formed mostly because of all that outside influence that we were allowed and even encouraged to explore.
I'd say our weapons class, we haven't done that much weapons. Obviously, a lot of it's on the black belt syllabus, like especially the knife stuff. We've played a couple of times with, we have the shakujo and the mue, which is the kawi stick and the bow, basically. So we've messed around with that a couple of times and done a couple of like little knife defense stuff, but like we don't tend to do that as much, especially most of my class is white belts. We now have some yellow belts, and we've had people over belts coming, but it's majorly been a white belt class for the majority of the time I've been there. So we don't tend to go that hard onto that stuff. As for bringing in other stuff, there is actually part of our philosophy test because of the rule of be open-minded when you come in. So if you have prior experience, don't start trying to explain how yours is better or do what yours is, because you might hurt someone if they're not expecting you to do something that we're not training. That looks really fucking weird. Everyone knows it's a cat, but that really took me a second.
I know. Sorry, my cat's up here.
Yeah. Like, Sensei is always pretty happy to compare with other martial arts, especially if I like bring it up and we've talked about other stuff, and he's said to people, like, if you've done prior martial arts, like we have a Taekwondo student, you could run a warm-up based off of the stuff you've done there. But it's like,
that's cool.
While we're in learning our techniques and we're meant to be doing this syllabus technique, don't start doing all your random stuff because they're not expecting it and you might actually do someone a damage.
Yeah, I know one time when we were sparring, we had someone who, she might have been from a Taekwondo place for a while, and, you know, we don't do head kicks. Like, that's not a thing we do. It's not part of the, like, that's just not a thing we did in the dojo, especially not to other people. And she was sparring with this, not older woman, but not super young either, but not old. And she just, like, smashed the woman's head in with her foot, and it was like, and you know, like, the woman wasn't mad, but she was like, you know, like, we have headgear on, but that was a hard kick. Like, you could hear it. And that's not at all what, like, our sparring was pretty pathetic. Like, it was pretty soft, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't anywhere near as intense as I wanted.
Especially now you're doing Muay Thai. That's a big comparison.
Yes, I am actually loving Muay Thai because it's like, okay, everyone, you know, 10% power and everyone's going like 90% power. Okay, guys, 50% speed. Everyone's like, that's not 50% speed. It's fun, though. And, you know, you can punch people in the face, which is something you're not supposed to do. Like, directly in the face, you're not supposed to do that when sparring. So the idea of someone smashing someone's head in with their foot full force was not ideal, and that is some of the issues that can happen when you cross martial arts borders because of the expectations. And then when I got to Muay Thai and I'm getting smashed in the face, and I'm just like, what? Because the only sparring experience I had was you don't punch people directly in the face. Like, you can hit their sides, top of their head. So I had to
We have
learn.
the exact opposite, because we have our head guards have face protectors. So we can punch each other directly in the face, but it's softer around there, so that you say, like, please, if you can, avoid clapping someone in the ear. You know?
Yeah, see, we had the open face, so we didn't have cheek guards or any face shield or anything.
We have, I'm pulling out because it's right there, so why not? Might as well make use of the fact that we have cameras now and show y'all what I'm talking about for once, instead of just saying, well, this is this. This is our headgear that we use, so you can clap someone here and here.
You look like you're going into space.
These are, I think they're Kudo head guards, you know, that full contact boxing, karate, judo hybrid, so pretty fucking solid. Good for breathing as well. Our old ones were a lot worse.
Ours didn't protect the face at all. It was just like, you know, top of head, back, and that, and other than that, like, your whole face was exposed.
I don't like the ones that I've seen in the Japanese dojos. I think I may have shown you, they look like welding face guards, you know, like the massive plate in front of the face.
What on earth?
I know, it's insane.
Yeah, no, mine is very, But then in Muay Thai, when we spar, we don't even wear head guards.
That is interesting. I think I prefer head guards. I don't really mind either way. I've definitely sparred in the dojo and said, you know, do you need a head guard? Like, I've got my own shield, it'd be fine. But head guards, the reason I'm okay with head guards, this is a really weird one for me, is because it makes people more comfortable with hitting me. And I feel like I get better experience if people are okay swinging on me because I've got a bit of protection than I would with occasionally getting hit without protection. I feel like if it's one or the other, then one is more preferable.
Yeah, no one has any issues punching people in the face without head guards.
That is very good for your school. I'm glad for that.
Yep. Sometimes if we are wearing head guards, it's usually because we have a competition coming up, and the competitions we do require gear. Like, you can't go in without. I mean, there are special. I've got pictures coming up from the USMTO and the Super Show, and the Super Show, actually, people weren't wearing head guards or shin guards or stuff like that, but that's not really what I think a lot of us do when we compete. We generally go to ones where you have to wear like the headgear and stuff. So if we have a competition going up, we will wear that just so we can get used to wearing the headgear and all of that stuff that we normally have to wear. I don't like wearing the head guard because honestly, it just overheats me so bad, and that was the one thing I hated.
Definitely. Like, that wears me out so. But I think that's actually good for my cardio sparring with that on, which we're not meant to do hard sparring. White belts are supposed to have single attacks, and then I think when you get to green belt, it becomes more freestyle with the striking and then combos with the grappling. I may be wrong. I haven't got my syllabus on me right now to double check that. Sensei's whole thing in our dojo is if you want to go harder, find someone else who wants to go harder. Don't just smash up the new person who's scared, which I think is perfectly fair. But speaking of head guards, I'll be 1 second because I have a better head guard than anything you could ever have.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh, my gosh.
Karate Kid. Yeah, I figured I might as well.
Yeah, might as well. I saw
it's how people will get used to this look.
I saw the real one at the Martial Art Museum.
I know, you sent the picture. That was so cool.
Yeah, and they had Elvis's gi there, too.
Oh, yeah. Because
he did Kempo.
Elvis trains Parker Kempo, yeah?
Yeah, he trained under Ed Parker.
What rank did he get to?
I don't remember, but he was pretty up there in the black belt, though.
Interesting. Because one of the most ironic parts about that, and hate to speak ill of the dead, especially someone who I actually really enjoyed what they created, he died because he was very overweight and out of exercise.
Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of a thing with especially American Kenpo. You kind of, I think, the higher you get, the more...
There is a joke about, like, for each stripe you get on your black belt, you gain, like, 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Part of that's because, like, you tend to you become more into the philosophy because the idea is you've built up a lot of the physicality, you know the basics, so then you go more into theory and how can you string them all together and not necessarily, you know, how many times you can run up and down the stairs.
Everyone keeps saying, and like all of the higher belts, they'll be like, oh, it's your age, you know, you care more about fighting because you're younger. I can't imagine myself ever not wanting to do the shit where I get to hit someone and wanting to care more about the, like we have a whole philosophy scripture that we can break down word by word. When the head sensei came for the dojo's anniversary a couple of weeks ago, he broke down just the first line of the scripture for like a whole 20 minutes, then we went into like talking about judo and sport martial arts and the Olympics and how he was talking to the head of judo over here many, many years ago about sport martial arts. It can get deep, and I enjoy it, and I feel like I have a decent understanding of some of our philosophy. But mostly I train hitting stuff to hit stuff, and I don't see that changing with age.
That's fair. I was actually really into the philosophy and the idea of how to put things together when I was in Kempo. But now that I'm in Muay Thai, I'm more like, no, just punchy, punch, hit, slam.
Hit.
Yeah, just...
punch, bam, boom, slam.
Yeah, basically. It's like, oh yeah, philosophy, that's a thing. Okay, who's ready to spar?
Yeah, which is interesting. I'm pretty sure Muay Thai has some deep philosophy somewhere, but fuck if I know what it is.
So,
as
my
shown
understanding...
when you got mad at me for saying headband.
Not a headband.
It's a band that goes over your fucking head.
There is so much more to it, though.
Go on.
Okay. Sure, there is more to it. Okay. So with Mong Kong, that goes around the head. That's the idea is that they're actually supposed to be scriptures within the Mong Kong that are wrapped in there, along with amulets, things that remind you of people you love and who give you strength. So it's supposed to be just an amulet, really, of protection and strength, and that's why you don't fight with it on. Because
I could tattoo the whole Dokun on my arm. It's still a fucking tattoo.
Yeah, but that's just ink. The idea is that... Okay. Here's the thing. You wear the Mong Kong when you're sealing the ring. You know what sealing the ring is?
No.
Okay.
I'm
So
fucking done Muay Thai.
that's fair. I guess this is as close to philosophy you get with Muay Thai. It's more like superstition kind
is
of
this
stuff.
the shit where they cast spells before they fight?
No, that is that weird voodoo thing we saw.
No, that's catch wrestling. That is not Muay Thai.
No, wasn't there I thought that was like voodoo wrestling that we were watching. That was
voodoo,
like bloody and.
Voodoo.
Catch voodoo.
That's nothing to do with Muay Thai.
No, but that's the casting spell thing. No, what they do is you're supposed to bow 3 times before you enter the ring, and then you seal the ring and you have the mongkong on, and sometimes you have like this necklace of flowers on, depending on your gym, really. And the idea is that you're protecting the ring from anyone who might cast bad vibes towards you. Basically, the idea is that Muay Thai is a gambling setting, and people who are betting against you are going to send curses your way so that they win the money. The idea of sealing the ring is to protect you from any of those curses.
So what you're saying to me is that Muay Thai is like those teenage girls who think they're Wiccans and hold their crystals out in the moonlight to protect themselves from the haters.
Well, when you put it like that, it kind of does sound like that. But they've got the monk on, and that, yeah, okay, fine. But, I mean,
you know what this represents?
Karate Kid.
The crane.
Oh, dear Lord. But that's the thing, like, everything can seem silly in a different light, you know? Like, they take these things seriously, though. Like, there was a time where women weren't even allowed to touch the ropes at Lumpini Gym. Like, they weren't even allowed near it because they thought women on their period would bring bad luck. Yep. And it's not just Muay Thai people. There are actually a lot of religions where they're like...
You know what? Muay Thai is based, man. Just like, hey, no, these hoes is bad luck. We're going to be fighting serious for real.
I'm just saying there are religions who are like that, too. And they're like,
That reminded me of someone we know from our group chat, a classical pugilist, you know who I'm referring to, was talking about not having a girlfriend and how he was choosing to do it because Mike Tyson said that not getting laid for 3 months before his fight made him fight better because he was so pissed off.
So he's going to do that for like a total of 30 plus years and then what, still lose?
Jesus Christ. Oh, God. But no, there is
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But no, there's a lot of stuff in most martial arts, and especially in Kempos, I would say that looks ridiculous. Like, you've seen us read, we have our meditation, which is where we stand, we read the Dokun, we put one leg back, stand, go down on our knees, and pray Chinko and see the meditation, and we do the philosophy, sit up, finish reading the Dokun. And I showed you that, and you were like, why the fuck are you in a cult?
I was just thinking, that sounds so culty, and at least inconsistent. It sounds very culty. So,
especially if you hear what we're reading, it, like, this starts off as like, rely on yourself, not on others. No one's reliable as your own well-disciplined self. By committing evil, you defile yourself. By avoiding evil, you obtain your purity. But then it goes down. That's the good stuff. Like, you know, you can rely on yourself and don't do bad things. We're teaching you to help people and help yourself. Then it goes down to, we are grateful to be endowed by our souls from Dharma and want to return his blessings. We cooperate to the ideal world. Dharma?
Okay, the only Dharma I know is, like, Jeff Dahmer.
What?
Are you saying Dharma?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. It sounded like you were saying Dahmer, and I'm like, Dahmer? Like Jeff Dahmer, the serial killer?
There's Dharma, and then there's Dharma. I'm saying Dharma.
Okay.
Dharma.
You have an accent.
To be fair, when Americans say it, it's the same thing. Dharma, 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 Dharma.
No, that's an accent thing. There are some regions where they sound like they have at the end of every A, and it's really annoying.
Well, no, I was not talking about a serial killer.
I just wanted to clarify, okay? Because I was like, Dahmer and Dharma are two different things. No, but again, it's just misunderstanding.
Figure.
some people might say
actual
Dom is a
porn
spiritual
right?
figure.
We're not talking about Tumblr girls, okay? But no, we endeavor to return the blessings to be endowed of our souls endowed by Dharma, and we cooperate to accomplish an ideal world with our comrades.
Mm-hmm.
It can get a little bit fucking weird, but that's just how we philosophize our art. And I'm sure you guys have some strange philosophy, probably not as cultish and suspicious, especially considering the history of the art, but I'm not going into the full history.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of like you saying, like, oh, we're like teenage Wiccans, but I mean,
your American Kempo had some weird philosophies, because you were talking about how you used to be into that.
Oh. Well, I mean, the philosophies that were in Kenpo were all just good ones, just be kind to others, have integrity. I don't know.
How did you
good
get
people.
deep into the philosophy of being kind to others? Like,
okay, so
isn't that just like basically like Christian? Don't treat people how you wish to be treated.
Okay,
ignoring, I say light because you're ignoring a lot of it before you even make the comment yourself.
Well, it wasn't so much the base rules. It was just kind of like, how do you marry like this idea of peace with this is how you break someone's spine kind of thing, Not
the way that the guy who made Aikido did it. That's the answer. If you're not doing it like him, you're doing it right.
No, but it's just like, how do we have this like side of peace and love and don't do harm, along with this is how you break someone's neck, and just kind of, what are we supposed to do? How much is too much? And where did this come from? And then just
what's a measured response to it?
Yeah.
What Logan talks about with his use of force continuum.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, my question then about your philosophy: where do gold-trimmed red geese come into it?
That comes into the fact that once you're a grandmaster, no one questions what the fuck you do, and the weirder you are, the more believable you are as a grandmaster.
I don't know about that. I think when you kind of look like Kung Fu Santa Claus, you start to get less believable. Especially if you're doing like 60 moves at once and half of them are punching someone in the dick.
Okay, that's not... no.
Okay, you guys, I've literally seen from American Shaolin Kenpo Karate a version of our Uchiuke and to there, except it's Uchiuke and then straight into the fucking nuts. And then you grab them on the back, hit them in the spine, and throw them on the floor.
Okay, yeah. But we don't hit them in the crotch 500 times, okay?
I mean, we watched, you're the one that brought up, we asked you for a representation of your Kenpo, and you brought up that tribute of Kempo, and they were doing their chakra jutsus, and half of it was Monkey Still's Peach. They had their hands like this, and they were like running around the side of people's faces like they're trying to fucking Naruto them.
I actually don't remember that part.
I'll scream.
Okay. Yeah.
After.
But yeah, Monkey Steals Peach is a thing we joke about.
Mm. Good technique. I don't think we use it. Probably do at some point.
I mean, the thing is, if we're talking about self-defense and what's the most efficient way to down someone, I mean, if it's a dude and it's probably, I'm going to be second here, it's probably a dude attacking. Yeah, smash their junk. It's going to give you an advantage.
I mean, we have Kentekige, which is one of our key ones. Our three basic kicks are kick in the balls, kick them in the chest, kick them in the head.
There you go.
We don't use the head kicks for self-defense, since it clearly says keep them around the stomach area for self-defense, but it's good to like stretch and increase your flexibility, because if you can kick high good, you can kick low better.
Exactly. That's a thing in our art too,
Although I would say ours are a little less violent than yours, because we strictly have a thing where we're not trying to cause permanent injury with our strikes like that. Kentekigari, it's a flick, and you're trying to flick the nuts upwards so they bounce. And with our
wow, you guys really go into graphic. Yeah. We don't talk about bouncing nuts at all.
we get a belt, we get like a spare belt, and we tie nut a ball in it, and we try and make sure we're kicking it so it flips up the right way. And that's how we practice Kentucky. And then for eye strikes, we don't like gouge the eyes or like stab into the eyes. We do meiochi, which with the hands are open and you just flip. You're like punching, but you keep the hand open.
Yeah.
And it fucking hurts if you get that in the eye, because like you can hear the impact on it if I go like.
Yeah.
It fucking stings. And we do that. That's a weird thing with our grappling.
Mm-hmm.
We do that before every grappling technique. Like as soon as we get in the range, if they've grabbed us before we pull out, we hit them and then we pull out. If we're grabbing them, we hit them and
bouncing nuts and pulling out. Got it.
I'm sorry, y'all are just testicle ticklers in general, so I believe you're kind of out of your depth in the jokes here.
I don't know. We don't talk about, like, we smash them, but we don't talk about bouncing them.
Yeah, y'all don't even have a conversation about it. You just grab them repeatedly. That's the difference. Like, we're not even going to talk about just twist them and grab them and...
Well, we don't, like... Says the guy who apparently they make the pretend nuts and they try to kick them just so they flick them. That's
but
weird.
Y'all like, if you're getting attacked, milk a cow.
I mean, we don't need to practice that with, like... God.
That is actually... Despite the joke about it, that is actually a distinct difference. I will say, being an American Kempo, it makes sense that y'all are ridiculously more violent.
If it works, it works. My Grandmaster is all about efficiency, so...
I mean, you're probably the last person to talk about that, because even your instructor said you look like you're trying to stab people while you're meditating, so...
I wasn't meditating.
It was a meditative, slow form, and it was one of the more, like...
Oh, yeah.
And you're meant to be just doing, like, your covering my...
Oh, yeah, Statue of the Crane.
And then you were just like, nice, fucking kill you!
I didn't say that, but I guess the intensity with which I did the form was not the right amount of intensity.
But you did say that he specifically told you looked like you were trying to stab someone.
No, he said I was like a shrika, which apparently is a really violent bird that like stabs its prey.
A violent bird.
Mm-hmm. Well, because of the Statue of the Crane, so.
Statue of the Crane, yeah, the crane. There was the point. Where is my point? Oh, we talked about I talked about how when we start our grappling wrist locks.
Mm-hmm.
And your other grappling. I'm guessing you guys did mostly standing grappling, if you did any at all, right?
We basically did, like, joint locks and arm breaks as far as that sort of stuff went.
Pretty basic, like you'd expect from most arts like that, yeah. We mostly do the same stuff. Ours is mostly wrist escapes or wrist locks or standing arm bars, you know?
Yeah. Like, there are ones, like, where, you have you get them into an arm bar and then you, like, axe kick their arm and stuff like that. Or
you're
was
going to need to run through that again.
Wait, maybe it's not an axe kick. Maybe you just use your legs to break the arm.
I mean, the axe kick is the one that comes up and down. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to remember the form, though.
Snap an arm with a kick. That might be it.
I might be thinking of two different things. I know there was one where I was supposed to, like, get my leg over that. Like, the person was down, supposed to get their head over, like, my leg over their head to snap, but I'd always end up hitting the person in their head.
Yeah.
And Grandmaster just says that's a bonus shot. You're not supposed to hit them in the head with your foot, but if you do, then good job.
You do. We have pretty basic, like, we just do our stuff and then it will go up into, like, you'll use it in different angles as higher belts. So we have, the most common one we use is we get the thumb in here, the fourth joint, and wrap the fingers around their thumb and twist it out, and this is Gyakugote, and then you can pull it over the arm or pull them out like this, and that's an easy one. Can have the arm out like this and like twist it or like pressure on the elbow, stuff like that. We use that. I think we use this for my yellow belt technique. I haven't done that one much yet. Johako Dori. Have like the doing this one where like the pinky's up and it
Yeah.
So it's all just basic twists, basically. And then there's also stuff like where you can leverage the elbow, or we have the hakusetsu, which is the pressure point, the distal bicep tendon.
Oh, yep.
We use in white belt technique, where we push knife hand over it and then twist out the wrist, and we can. It's ridiculously fucking painful. I would be like, everyone hates having it happen. In fact, I can send a video of it. But that's basically like we have like the same locks, we just do them from different angles and stuff. And like, are they grabbing you here? Or are they grabbing your wrist? Are they grabbing here? Are you grabbing them? Are they like specifically for our grabbing them ones? They tend to point out like the situations in which we would do it to them, because they want us to not be violent. They're like, well, if you see like they're harassing a group of people and they're probably a bit drunk, you don't want to like start hitting someone, but you can remove them away if you think they're going to start getting violent before they attack, you know? And then all of our blocks turn into grabs and twists and stuff afterwards, only followed by kicking someone.
Yeah, we learn escapes from like wrist locks and all that kind of escapes from bear hugs and that kind of stuff. And it's really just like attack sensitive areas to loosen them up and then get out of there, because you just gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
The eye is always R1, where we that.
Well, see, you have eyes. We attack nuts.
I think we hit the stomach in one of them in our release if they're double grabbing you, like they're trying to push you back. At least one hand and then hammer fist into their like solar plexus or something, and then you can lock them with the other hand that they had in front of them.
I know we have a couple where
we pretty subjectively
elbow into the solar.
We do have an elbow one. That was one I was talking about with hakusetsu. After we drag them away with locking that up, we then elbow them in the ribs and sweep them. Because why not? So
I think a similarity we found between both of our Kempos is there are a lot of different things strung together that can make the techniques pretty long, huh?
Techniques are pretty long. Did you guys ever go into a discussion about why the techniques are so long?
So my understanding is the reason why our techniques are so long is that they're contingency plans. Whether you miss your mark or, you know, it didn't hit or it didn't work, this is what you do next.
Right. We, yeah, it was pretty much like, I can't remember the exact quote that I heard at the seminar, but it's like, rely on redundancy. Like, you're relying on the fact that you won't need to do it all, but if you do need to do it more than one, and also you can learn multiple things at once to use without the whole system. But rely on redundancy, rely on the fact that you have stuff to fall back on that may be useless, but at least you have it.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Always have a plan B.
Exactly, and the C, D, E, F, G, etc. It's like, we hope you don't have to go all the way, but in case these 50 things don't work, you still have 50 other things.
Well, ours are definitely shorter than yours, I think.
Well, they're not all that. They get longer midway through, I think. I think blue is when they start to become kind of complicated. Before that, they're only like 3 or 4 things together.
I think ours get more complicated higher as well. That's one thing I was going to say is, like, you noticed a thing in your art where you transition more from karate to kung fu as you go to a higher level. Ours is more like we transition more from karate and kung fu to jiu-jitsu as we get to a higher level. Like, it starts to input more and more of these locks and takedowns as we go higher up.
Yeah, I would say so. You really just learn basic, like, escaping from a wrist grab kind of stuff, and then you slowly get more into the hyperextension, armbar kind of stuff. And then what do you do after you hyperextend them kind of stuff, like breaking the arm or just dragging them down, or just, you know, what do you do after that, basically?
What do you find the most fun to do? What do you enjoy training the most?
Like what, kata or what combination or...
Kata, striking, locks. What's your like part? What part of it is best for you?
For locks and that sort of thing, I really liked arm bars because you could just bring people down to you know, being that I'm so short, being able to just bring people to making me feel taller, basically. I liked arm bars. I liked some of the forms. One of the last forms I was learning, kata 4, I think, was very beautiful but very hard to remember, unless I'm getting that confused with kata 3. Yeah, that's one thing I will say.
Do you just name your katas kata 1, kata 2?
No. So we have the katas and the pinions, and then what I call miscellaneous. Miscellaneous is like two-man fist, Hanasuki, two-man fist set, north and west. No, north and south, not north and west, north and south. And then the katas are forms that are more karate-based, and then the pinions are more kung fu-based.
Okay.
And that's a simplified version of it.
I just sent you the lock I was talking about, by the way.
Okay.
Make sure the volume's on because the audio of their reaction is the best thing.
You don't even need to hear that. You can just see it on his face.
It, yeah.
Oh,
I love it. That's one of our white belt locks, and I'm happy to say that after 2 years, I've pretty much got that one down. It's so fun.
Yeah, we don't do much with the bicep, but we do have attacks where, like, we'll do the leopard fist, and that'll be a target, and I don't know, I just did that. That hurts.
They call it, Lo has a thing about that. They call it gununting in the Filipino stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it's meant to be like a scissor, so when they're attacking you, you'll block and it'll be like a scissor where you're cutting down here whilst blocking here. That does hurt, yeah.
Yeah.
So that one simply is targeting the point where it's under the bicep, there's the tendon, so you'll slide the hand down to push the bicep out of the way and then pressure on that tendon. If you like slide your hand down, you feel it there.
Yeah.
And then when the wrist is locked also, it becomes like a leverage point, like you can push and twist. And yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, the leopard fist is supposed to go into like those little areas and like in between the ribs and just get into those little smaller areas.
Yeah. So did you say, like, is the kata your favorite part of all of it, or kata striking?
So I think certain katas I really liked just because they were very meditative and they were just a good way to warm up and to check on your balance for some of them. I liked some of the moves just as they got more kung fu-y. That sounds weird.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
But it was just like more like flowing and that sort of thing, and I liked more of the flowy.
I'd say some of our katas are way more karate than kung fu just because they don't flow. Like our Tenshiken series, I think there's 6 katas in Tenshiken, and it's all starting out. So you take a forward diagonal step. They say don't ever step forwards in Kenpo because if you step forwards, you're stepping into a fist. So you can step out of the way of it. And then, so Tenshiken Dai each, the first one, step, punch, hook, lock, cover up, kick, and that's the end of the kata. There's a whole point to it. It's like when you turn back, you're blocking here, but your ribs are uncovered, and they're going to hit you there, so you can pull back in and cover up your center line, but then they're going to, like, heel kick you or something, so then you cover up out there, and then you kick them.
Yeah, I know some of our forms we would purposely leave parts open because the idea is we're baiting them in, and then once we bait them in and they attack the area we want them to, then we do some other move. It's like, okay, well now you're where I want you to. Now I'm going to continue and
that's the whole point
you.
of one of our guards is we do this guard, which leaves the chest open, but like covers up here, so they're more likely to hit you here. And also it looks defensive because your hands are like, I'm not trying to hurt you. And then.
So it's like, that doesn't look like a guard.
No, it's not, but it is because you're very easily able to just move. Our actual guard is one hand up on the chest around the chin area, one hand out is kind of lower, but I'm going to keep it higher to be on camera. Yeah. And the whole point is because it's low, they can't see which way the fist is coming up or the hand is going to hit you. And also, you're covering up here, but then you can also strike.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of a difference I found between Muay Thai and Kempo, just going off a little, is with Muay Thai, you know, I was told, like, you keep the guard here. You don't block any. If it's going to punch you in the face, fine. But if it's, like, here, like, it's not an issue. It's only an issue if it looks like it's going to hit you. But with Kempo, you know, they didn't want my guard here. They wanted my guard, like, out here because their philosophy was, well, if it's going to hit you anyway, just get it out of the way before it's gained momentum and energy. Just like, be like, nope. And that way, if you miss there, you still have time to do something else.
We did a whole podcast about that. And I say the Muay Thai one is very similar to the boxing one from the little experience I have with boxing. Not as much as Jupiter or Master D have, but I know a little bit, and it's very similar. It's like the same idea. You keep everything covered because I think the point is that when you're actively blocking, one, things can go wrong because you can't always get it, and if you become reliant on it. That's why I really like in Shinji is we have body movement, and it's moving out of the way that stops us getting hit. This is just in case, and if we're good enough, it can let us get in there. And when I did Wing Chun, because my guard that I use is not really the Shinji Kempo guard, I still use a more Wing Chun variant guard where I've got a bit of the chest here and then a hand out here, and then I can trap and go over, or trap in there, or I can come out and block and get it, you know. It's, that's the difference, though, one thing between training Wing Chun and Shinji Kempo. Shinji Kempo is more defensive by nature, and it is about moving out of the way. Wing Chun is more offensive by nature, at least when I trained it and the way I believe it should be used. So it's about moving to get in the way, and you're not just blocking their hits, you're removing their guard so that you can get in and then open up to destroy everything.
Yeah, it's just interesting how the arts will go about the same idea differently. Because it was hard, like, being like, what do you mean my guard's in here? I was told, like, it's supposed to be, like, all the way out here so that I can handle anything, and then there's the whole we called it helping hand, where it's like that it's a block basically for a punch coming in, and it's like this hand helps block it, and then this hand is like just in case. But I think the idea is like you use this hand and you move it here, and then this hand can kind of push it farther away, but it's also just in case, you know, one of them misses. And then of course you can hook on and then do other stuff.
I never really had that issue in the transition because pretty much my guard just went from being this to being this, so it was not that big a difference when we're still blocking. I think my biggest difference, the thing I'm having the most issue with, is the amount of extension, because being Wing Chun, we extend like 50% everything here to here, whereas Kenpo, we have kicks, we have different ranges where they're coming in towards you, they're one step from hitting you, or you're already fighting, you know? And in Wing Chun, it's you're already fighting, and that's it. And if you're not already fighting, you get into where you're fighting. So I'm still holding back. I still punch. We're going to have a full rotation, 45-degree angle. Your chin is meant to be protected by your shoulders, the point is over here. Whereas I want to keep here. And when we do our stomach punches, you bend your front leg down, get low, and come up. That's not camera, but you come up like this. And I just want to go like this and keep it in the center, short. Which can be an issue with the blocks, because when we're blocking like this and I'm blocking like this, pop out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you're talking. What am I supposed to do, talk over you?
I don't know.
Yeah, so...
Anyway, yeah, go on.
But yeah, it's just the distance and just that sort of idea of fighting is definitely confusing, or just difficult to transition. And then, again, like you were saying, you know, you're either fighting or you're not with Wing Chun, but there's obviously different parts, different ranges within Kenpo. Yeah, and then I had to deal with that with Muay Thai, because on top of that stuff, which I was comfortable with, we do clinch on top of that, and clinch isn't something, like, yeah, we escaped from, like, bear hugs and wrist locks and kind of stuff, but we weren't, like, you know, body to body, like, actively fighting like that, which is definitely something I had to get comfortable with, because, like, I like my guard out here, and I like my people out there.
Yeah. That's also another thing, because you guys have your teep kick, but I'm sure when you were in Kempo, you had a lot more, like, ranged kicks where you could make them keep their distance.
Yeah, that was one thing I had trouble understanding, the difference between a teep and just, like, one of our forward kick. No, not the snap kick, because the snap kick goes up. The thrust kick is what we called it, because it's a similar idea of the teep, because you just, like, bring the leg up and then you push it out that way, as opposed to a snapping kick where you kind of, like, go up.
Go up.
Yeah. But
Well, I think that's the difference between a good snap kick and a taekwondo snap kick more than it is a snap kick and a pushing kick that's not a T kick.
Well, because the thing is, we would do an instep kick, which, yeah, it goes to the groin, okay? Yeah. Because it goes up. Where else is it going to go? Unless you can, like, hit their chin. But then if you can have that much force to hit their chin, might as well put all that force. Anyway, not the point. That's the point. But it took me a long time to figure out what the difference between the thrust kick was, front thrust, and the teep was. And it's, at the end of the day, it's the balance, because with the thrust, you do put a lot of force into it, to the point where if they moved, you probably would fall forward. Yeah. But with the teep, the way it's, yes, you put that energy forward, but the idea is that your balance is different, so that if you miss your target, you're not going to fall forward at all.
I've never really heard of a front kick where you're putting that much into it where it makes you go forwards if you don't hit.
So it's not a front ball kick where you hit with the ball of your foot. This is, so the way it was described to me is, imagine a firefighter kicking down a door.
Okay.
So they're not going to hit with the ball of their foot. They're going to, like, use their heel. It's like the palm heel, but with your foot. You know, you're smashing the heel through, and the whole idea is force and damage.
Yeah, I have that, but not to, like, here area. It's, like, to the knee. That's for Wing Chun. We also do use that, one of the Kenpo techniques, like the takedowns that I was shown when I was practicing for my fight, is doing that while you have your arm around their neck, like pulling their head back or on their neck, and then you get the heel of your foot into the back of their knee and drag them.
Oh.
That one's beautiful. I will say that. It's very much, it's a complicated one, and I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, because you have to sidestep in and get their arm out of the way and then reach around and pull them back. So it's very timing based, but
we have
if
stuff
you can
like that
pull it,
too.
it's great. It's beautiful. I love it.
I forgot what I was saying.
Something.
Probably, but maybe not. Oh, right, the thrust kick. But yeah, it's just the force and understanding the differences, because that's why I get mad at people who are like, oh, I'm going to learn every martial art out there. And it's like, there are these nuances in every art. And it's like, oh, well, they look the same. And it's like, okay, but if you dig deeper into the art, there's more to it than what's on the surface, more than what you're just going to understand in a year or two of study.
Which is quite interesting.
Yeah, because at first look, the thrust kick and the teep look pretty similar to me.
There's also another one. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, you were talking about your rising kick where like you couldn't hit them in the chin, but you hit down there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, before.
That's practicality, though.
Yeah. So does that mean you can only hit people in their ankles?
I'm going to ignore that. The thing is, though, at USMTA, the US Muay Thai Open, I saw short people trying to hit taller people in the head, and the problem with that is we go airborne if we try to do that, and more than likely we're going to fall over. So.
What? Were they like doing like fucking Ryu, just like Shoryuken, like jumping in the air with their uppercut?
No. You just do a Muay Thai kick, but aim for the head. But the thing is, you put enough. No, you put enough force and energy into it, and your leg kind of takes the life of its own. Yeah. And you might hit the target, but you also might go airborne. And it happens when you're short and fighting a taller target. It's like, cool, I hit you, and now I'm gonna fall on my butt.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, hey, if it works out, though, that's part of the risk and reward, isn't it? Same way there's like that weird Kyokushin kick where it's like the one that Lo was talking about, is just the rolling thunder kick.
I don't think I was there for that. Was I there for that?
I don't know. He did it. So it's literally a kick they use in Kyokushin, and Lo's explanation was that if it's like the end of the fight and you're pretty worn out, you're pretty sure you're gonna lose. It's like a last ditch thing where like, I'm gonna lose, I might as well do this one risky thing, and it's a full front flip where you flip over and your heel cracks down on the top of their head. And then you land on your ass, but they're probably knocked out if you hit.
Lovely.
It's called Domo Ashikaten Kei. Interesting.
Yeah, I just know that depending on the rules of the competition, sometimes if you fall down like 3 times in a round, you lose. So if you make the head kick, but you fall down, you can't really.
Round,
yeah.
That is one thing about competitions. That's one thing that I really love about Shrinji Kempo is Goju-itai, and that is like everything is linked, and you're meant to have it all together, which is why I don't understand our competition rules, because we only do striking competitions and embu competitions. Our striking competitions are like, karate, you hit and you get the thing, and then embu is our like choreographed fights, and you can compete so you guys the best embu where you mix all your techniques in. Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't have more linked competition fighting or linked sparring. And I think it's because embu was meant to be safer when they designed it, and you don't have to wear gear and you still take hits and use blocks, and it's meant to be full power, otherwise you're not doing it right. So they thought that was the best way to do it back in the day before, it's bare knuckle. But I don't know. I wish we had some more linked in stuff, but the whole philosophy is that everything's meant to be linked, so.
No, I get that. I mean, everything's supposed to be connected in Kenpo too, and we have the whole circle line thing. Everything's a circle or a line, and where the circle ends, the line starts, and where the line ends, the circle starts, and
Isn't that just cursive handwriting?
No. No. The idea is that every move within Kenpo is either a straight line or a curve. So, like a hook, that's round, straight punch, straight, It's just, and the movement, the footwork, all of that's supposed to be part of this idea.
Well, I think even with something that's round or straight in the strike, it's still round and straight around it as well, because the hook, that's a round hit, but you still got a straight arm and a straight line. The straight punch, you're still round with your body. You're still turning your feet and your body around, so everything is all really one.
Exactly. They're all connected.
Did Shallow American Kempo have any like overlying philosophies or things where you had to keep in mind with every technique? Like so for example, I said about whenever we're grappling, we also strike first. There's also Ren Hanko, which goes back to our rely on redundancy thing. Ren Hanko, every technique we do, we have to follow up with strike, and round kick. Because obviously we're remembering, always keep going, don't just do one technique. And once you get brown belt, that becomes any follow-up. You don't just do the strike, round kick. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
So I don't think we had anything exactly like that. It was just kind of like sayings that we would keep in mind, like slow is smooth and smooth is fast. The circle and line thing I just told you about. Just kind of like basic stuff. We didn't have like tenets or anything. I know in the book we have, it's kind of like avoid rather than check rather than, just the whole, what do you call it, the fight contingency? What is it? The thing that we were talking about with Lowe earlier, the defense thing.
Yeah,
like don't say no if you don't have to. Yeah, that course continuum thing. But nothing. I mean, we talked about the animals a lot, but I mean, and sometimes we'd be like, okay, this has a certain energy behind it. Like this form is going to be more crane, so it's going to be more smooth and graceful. You don't want to apply like tiger to it, or this is more of a tiger form, or the way you spar more like this animal. But like we didn't have tenets, I would say. Like we had like the honesty, courage, integrity thing, but that was really for the kids. And then we had the animals, which is kind of like how everything, I think that's more of what I think of when I think of the philosophy around Kenpo. Just the idea of dividing everything into these certain animals, but then having the dragon, which encompasses all of them, and just how did that kind of come together, and what defines this animal versus that animal. And I know the animals is not like ancient, it's a recent thing that's been applied to martial arts, but it's still an interesting thing I like to think of. What makes someone fight more like a crane versus like a snake, and
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to like add its part to it, and it's like more like a reference than anything. People think when they hear these animals or the animal styles of kung fu, or like just hear animals referenced in martial arts, that it's like a direct thing where it's like, you are doing tiger, so you're gonna scratch people. That's dumb. In the nicest way. That's fucking stupid. It's a reference point, basically, or like a translation to sound cool. Apart from something like Mantis, where you actually do have like Mantis-y things like this, like it's, as a general rule, just like a reference point for like behaviors and shit.
That's all they are. Like when you're doing crane, like you're not pecking people. The idea is like you have these long, smooth movements, long range, rich hands, a great.
Because people see all these old made by the Shaolin masters, and they're clearly wearing like an Amazon fucking uniform, and like, we are doing the crane. We have cranes, big quads. Stupid. It's fucking dumb.
So we do have crane speak, but we don't like go like that with it. Like it'll be for a specific attack, like the eye. Or
that doesn't fit my eye, Martha. That's like hitting my eye. That's like hitting my eyebrows around. That's not hitting my eye.
No, if you hit the eye.
Barely.
Well, we don't go like that. It's
cranes.
There's force and a flick at it. Anyway, I wasn't crane anyway. I was tiger.
I remember the worst. One reason I left the school was because they started giving me those animal references like it was a thing. They're like, when you're here, you're going to learn the eagle techniques and the tiger techniques and the snake techniques and the... Okay, bye. Still not the worst school I've been to. The worst school I've been to is a Hapkido school.
What was bad about them?
You had to stand on one leg, hop around in a 360-degree circle, and then do the crane kick as one of your white belt techniques.
Okay, wow, yeah.
And then one of their white belt grappling techniques was someone would grab your wrist from across like this, and you'd swing their hand up, swing it down, swing it back up, and then put your hand behind your hand and push them backwards.
What?
Literally, so imagine they have to hold on to you the whole time, because apparently an attacker would just hold you there, and you up, down, up, around, and push.
That's weird. Like, I know we have, I think we had, like, one or two. Oh, yeah?
Their knife defense was the biggest reason, because they had someone go up to one of the black belts, hold a knife directly on their ribs here, and the black belt would turn around and palm strike it.
But it's on the ribs.
Yeah, you're meant to knock it away.
Okay.
Which, hardly an expert on knives, but I feel like if I take this little thing here and point it on someone and they went, I could just do that. You know? Don't play with knives, kids.
No, don't. Don't even use the knife defenses they tell you.
Yeah. We do a little bit of knife defense. I think it's okay. The major principle of it is get out of the way and hold the weapon and hit them.
Yeah, basically same. But the thing is, before we learn any of the knife stuff, they tell us, like, how long it takes to bleed out from various parts of the body.
Yeah.
They're like, if you get cut here, it'll take this many seconds before you black out and die. If you get cut, and it's like, okay.
Whenever we do weapons stuff, it's treated more like a treat lesson, like we're going to have fun and fuck about with the big sticks and those. Because we have, like, training knives. Obviously, weapons are pretty not okay around here. The only reason I have any of these is some of them are foam, most of them are blunted. The katana and the odachi aren't allowed to be curved. They have to be straight blades. You know, they're not, like, that's the only reason I can fuck with any of these. We're not really meant to have weapons as a general rule. So the fact that as a dojo we can get training weapons which are a little bit more realistic than what we normally do, it's like, oh, this is awesome. It's normally a thing of, don't do this, but it's Christmas, so let's fuck about with some shit that's not going to kill you, but we can do it for fun. You know?
So that's definitely stuff we would do during the holidays, but once you get to a certain rank, you learn knife defenses as part of the curriculum, and that's when they give you that talk. Because
there's
like
black belt stuff, weapon knives in the. If I go through a syllabus, it'll be like, you know, the fuck is a knife called in Japan? Tanto is a Japanese knife, right?
We just called it a knife.
Okay, yeah, it'll be like tanto, like tanto grote, but a release twist the knife type thing, and that's in the black belt. And they mostly practice that in embus. You can find full weapon embus, but yeah, it gets up. But they normally would just say, the best way to have someone to defend yourself against someone trying to stab you is to give them what the fuck they want.
Yep, that's exactly. It's like if they have a weapon and you don't, just give them whatever it is. You can replace it. And then there's that whole pause, and it's like, and if you can't give it to them, cough, cough, we know what they're talking about, not your wallet or your phone, it's like, then you try this stuff. But they before you learn any knife defense, they tell you that, and they're like, if this scares you, it should, because if you try to do this, this is what could happen,
Yeah. You should be scared. That's the whole point.
You live in America. You could get shot while shopping.
I think there's a good reason. People always say, oh, don't train knife defense, don't train it. There is a good reason to train knife defense, and that is the difference between knowing about the weapon that is being held against you and having a panic attack the second you see it, because all you've seen is movies where you get stabbed and your body's like squirting fucking blood. Like, knowing the amount of force it takes and how hard they're swinging, just having seen the weapon before will make it calmer for you to be in the situation. Like, even if you hand over the stuff, if you're having a full panic attack and screaming and stuff, they're more likely to fucking attack you, If you're calm and reasonable because you've held a knife before in training in a controlled environment, you're like, look, okay, okay, here you go, let's not, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
was actually joking with Flo the other day about possibly sharing a hotel with one of his friends for that America seminar in Nashville.
America seminar.
And I was like, if they don't feel comfortable, they could just put a gun out, and that would freak me out. Like, they don't even have to put bullets in it. Just show it to me. It'll be like, because I've never held a gun. Like, my family weren't gun people. Where I was raised wasn't gun people. Like, we don't have guns. We don't want guns. I mean, yes, this is America, it's everywhere. But I've never held one. I've never fired one. Like, I've seen, like, replicas in museums, but...
I have airsoft rifles. That's as close as I am.
Yeah, I didn't even have that. No BB guns, nothing like that.
Really?
So,
You've never fired a BB gun?
No, those could really hurt people. But I'm just telling you, that's how I was raised. So I was joking, like, I'm so clueless about guns, they could put, like, a clearly broken one with no bullets in it, and it would just freak me out, and they wouldn't even have to pick it up, just show it there. Like,
yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to do anything anyway, but if they felt paranoid, like, just, I don't know how to unlock a gun.
Unlock a gun?
Yeah, see, I don't even know the freaking terminology.
You mean turn the safety off?
That thing. But that's your point. Isn't that your whole point? If you don't understand the weapon, then you're going to be more panicked about it. Exactly.
I'm just laughing at the fact that the English person knows more about guns than the person whose state gets school shootings like twice a fucking week.
I'm in California now.
Y'all have had some pretty bad shootings in California, have you not?
I mean, we're always on fire, too, so there's that.
Yeah.
And dealing with the drought. But it's not like Phoenix, Arizona, or something like that.
So what weapons do you guys actually use in Shaolin American Kenpo?
So curriculum-wise, we only have the gun, knife, stick defensive. There aren't official weapons. I think the reason why we even have weapons classes is, again, because we're allowed to explore outside of our art. And the last time I was there, they had nunchaku, eskrima sticks, broadsword, and what's the other one?
By broadsword, do you mean like this broadsword, or like the...
Oh, no, Chinese curved broadsword.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Well, actually, this is the Indian scimitar. The actual bow is up above it, and I'm not standing up to reach it.
No, I know what you mean, but it's the curved one. What was it? Oh, bow staff. That was the other one. Well, and then, as I was...
Simple weapon?
Yeah, and then they were adding 4 more as I was leaving, which were kama, katana... What were the other ones?
They were literally doing katanas?
I mean, wooden, but yeah.
Oh, that's fair. I have a wooden one, and I have my metal one, and my old Dachi.
Yeah, and the thing is, we have the plastic propylene stuff too as well.
Yeah. My Bakdam Dao and my actual Dao are both polypropylene.
Yeah, my broadsword is wooden, and then my katana is polypropylene. And I don't remember. Oh, Sai were another one, and I forget the last one.
Sai.
But yeah, it was really cool.
We don't have that many weapons. We have the Nyoe, which is the Kali stick. We have the Shakujo, which is a weighted bow staff, and the traditional Shakujo has the ring circle on it, and then a little metal bit at the bottom as well. I've seen it in Naruto. It's an actual real thing. People didn't believe me, but Shakujo outside of anime looks exactly like it looks in Naruto. And the rings are there because they were on mountains and they wanted to scare away animals and stuff with the shaking and ringing.
Yeah, I think there's a monk in Inuyasha. Miroku has a Shakujo.
Yeah. And then we have Kanto. But my sensei said to me that those are the weapons we officially train, but any blunt weapon is allowed within it. We just won't train that specifically, but the skills should be transferable. And when he said that to me, he gave me training nunchaku. So.
Yeah, that's another thing. Within at least the school I was at, the idea is that what you can do empty-handed, you can do with a weapon. The idea is that we can transfer what we've learned, empty-handed and then into a weapon. It's the idea is the weapon is an extension of us.
With the Noi, we do exactly the same thing. Like when we're doing our our high block, the Noi, we hold it and it goes down here. When we're striking with it, you strike with it like that, same as a punch. And then with our Shakujo, our kata is the same. Instead of doing punch, we do strike. Transfer.
Yeah.
This is a real Shakujo, by the way. I'm not sure if that's gonna.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Huh.
They're lovely. I've never seen the full one, but I really want one. I've asked Lo about forging me a top piece to put on my, because I've got a bow.
Okay.
So I've asked about forging me the top piece to just put on my bow.
Well, I can tell you the ports over here are just stupidly backed up. Nothing.
I think he said he wasn't able to just because that's very complicated metal work.
I believe that, yeah. Probably not for free.
It's really cool, though. Still not as cool as using sais and dowels. It's funny because you look at this and be like, it's funny because I've got all of these and I don't know how to use a single fucking one. I know fuck all about any of this except for the Wing Chun butterfly swords that are out of view.
Okay, then. Yeah, I can use most of the weapons I have. But I know sometimes, like we were talking about how, learning fun things during the holidays kind of thing, we would be given a random weapon and we were told, do a form that fits this weapon, where you can incorporate the weapon in well.
Wasn't it you that was telling me about how they told you to bring a random item, and then when you brought a random item from, you're like, okay, use this to defend yourself?
That sounds like something my class would do, yeah.
I remember what it was you said you brought. I think you said you brought iron or something.
No.
Might not have been that. No, I can't. But yeah, they were you were saying about
But yeah, the idea was to bring something and then figure out how would you defend yourself with that item. But we weren't told that, so people would bring people brought a book, people brought their cell phone, just
defend myself with a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang on. I have a book here right now. Nice, simple book. Clap him. Hit him. Appropriate, this is a judo book.
Nice. So yeah, if you can swing the book fast, yeah.
Or just hold it up so they're hitting the solid book cover and everything. Yeah. Or put your fist behind it, put it on their head and clap the solid into
Yeah, they started doing women's self-defense classes, and I think that was one of the things.
You should get a video so that we can review it because that's our most popular content.
It was just getting started right before COVID, and then I don't know. For all I know, it's not a thing anymore. It was kind of like an experimental class. Kind of like how the weapons started, but it was so popular that they kept it, and then they added more weapons.
Weapons are great.
I agree. I mean, it was one of the sensei's passions, loved weapons, and that's what really started the class.
I was going to say something. No, okay, it's left me. I'm really not on it today.
It's one of those days.
It's one of those days. So, okay, so we've done, like, the whole comparison of, like, the technical elements. I'm going to say, give people a brief rundown, like, just, like, a sentence or two that encompasses what American Shaolin Kenpo is. Give it, like, a bio as a master.
One part karate, one part kung fu, one part chaos.
Nice. The one I started using for Stringy Kempo is it's a kickboxing system that uses karate, kung fu, boxing, and then adds jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, yours is more descriptive, but mine's more honest.
Yours is more honest. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to our first Face Cam episode. This may, as long as we can fix the technical issues we had to start, be a long-running thing now. If you hate it, let us know and we won't do it again. But thank you for coming to our Kenpo comparison. If you like this, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, letting us know what you want us to discuss next time, or any questions that you have been raised from watching this. Go to our Instagram, Combat Connection, and our TikTok, and it's all the same shit, really.
Do we even upload stuff on the TikTok anymore?
I don't have a fucking clue. I think I was the last one to upload on there, and that was like last month.
Oof.
But we'll figure it out. There is content everywhere. Thank you. See you next time.
Okay,
Peace. Training.